Hello, everybody. This is Empty Turtle. I hope y'all having a wonderful day. It's beautiful out, and Dr. David Jubb here is with me. And say hello, Dr. Jubb.
Really great to be with everyone here today. It's really a bright moment where you're in uptime, and it's sort of a gamma wave is flowing, you know what I mean? And we've got a few people around us that come in and out. We've got Savannah here today too, and
hello everyone.
Hello,
y'all.
All right, and today what we're going to talk about is smartphone. Hello. Let's answer the subject.
Something could be a smart nutrient.
Okay, we'll start with nutrients.
Smart just means that something is efficient, you'd say, yes? So we want something that's smart because it's going to do things for us, like turn your fridge on.
We don't want a dumb phone.
Or turn it off.
We want a smart phone. And you know what? I just got a new smartphone the other day. And you know what? The new smartphone that I have thinks I'm a total dumbass. Anyways.
Yeah, well,
continue.
A smartphone can't think, of course. You and I, we could think.
Try telling that to the smartphone.
No, I know, but if I put things in terms of something, I'm sure I'm going to get some result out of it. But if I don't, of course, like it could take me some time, matter of fact, to even learn how to ask a question. But the biggest thing about the smartphone might be people's interest would be to do with their health and stuff. And
there's a lot of great aspects. I mean, we're basically walking around with a genius in our pocket. You know what I mean?
Yes, well, 1G or 2G, I don't know that you had to get to 5G.
Oh.
Because
I can't wait till we get to 12G.
1G sort of, passing through pretty much lots of things anyway. But then 5G certainly passes through things. It actually goes into things as well, like
our
body.
Bodies?
Yes.
So we could skip the phone and just put information on the tachyons. They go through our body. We absorb the knowledge and the memories and the words. We don't need a phone anymore.
Oh, well, let's see. Yes, there's a quanta, a JC quanta, a quantum that you're moving down to minus 71, centimeters. You're going really down there, cubed, squared. So, you're going really way down there. So you've gone all the way down to like a quadrillion units in a light second, basically. You see?
That's what I'm talking about.
So it's like two light waves that annihilated each other, and you just divided the one on top by the one below.
The winner and the loser.
You added a positive and a negative to the top. And so what you did was to get a value that is residuum. It's what's left over. In fact, it's sort of equivalent to something that is left over because nothing is equal and opposite. But that brings you down to a very conductive level, which, like a beetle or an inverse gravitational craft, get a steady state kickoff in space, you see. So this is sort of conductive. And so how fast information is processed doesn't relate to, transporting someone through space, the speed. We're talking about like 20,000 times the speed of light that a flicker could pass up and down, in a dynamic current as it goes.
And that's a fast way to move information. Are you happy with the smartphone, or would you have designed it differently?
Well, the whole thing to me as a topic sort of brings up the idea that we're customer-based. We all of us are. And what happens when somebody's giving you a service?
It better be good if I'm paying for it.
Yes, but then somebody might be having to have a license to do that. And it's sort of maybe licentious because it's sort of a lot of things that could enter into sort of criminal kinds of conditions, couldn't it? And then kinds of things which go on because isn't it that these batteries in vehicles and stuff just really can be so explosive, right?
Oh, yes.
And isn't it that the batteries in phones that were put got exploded and that these people all got tracked, tagged and ID'd Project Pogo, and they were all considered to be combat ants.
Yeah, are you talking about the pagers that they exploded not too long ago?
No, well, yes, but this is only just a tip of the iceberg of something kind of is able to be said. But what we're talking about is someone who's a service provider, and could that be sometimes be made in a corporation where that corporation is at the moment an
That's
enemy
exactly where the phone, the smartphone, comes from.
Corporation? You see? So where something is licentious, it means, somebody's being given permission, apparent, but they didn't really, because how could we do that? That's a title of nobility, and how could you and I, we can't bestow someone else a title of nobility. None of us would agree with it. It's not common law, you see, because liberty really is the freedom that we have to be equal to each other. But if somebody's been given a license, and that group knocked out all the safety standards and things in 220. Well, in the past it was when they could look and see and did studies that dirty energy was a reason for people only being able to have a certain amount of minutes of that a month.
I remember those days.
And but if is the smartphone or any phone like Basic right now is equipment made for you and I?
You would like to think so. I would. What do you think, Savannah?
Well, I just remember the main thing that I use my phone for, honestly, is for maps but I remember delivering pizzas back in the early 2000s and actually having to look on the map and know where you're going. Yep. Not even having a phone, really. Technically, most people didn't have them back then.
GPS.
Yeah, and I mean that was how I learned, and now it's just
phones are amazing. They are brains.
They hear you, but they watch and hear you. And if you talk about certain thing, and there's gonna be our search engine.
So a benefit could be because a drug is supposed to have a benefit, and it does apparent, but
depends on the drug.
Yeah, but it's not designed to actually do long term. And so where does it say that? Second, when something is no longer used because they go, this is not good, when did you get the recall notice much about this?
Kind of like when the fluoride right now, they're thinking about taking it out of the water.
Well,
no good.
Who gave anyone permission to medicate?
And they did. When I was in
back in the
elementary school, I took fluoride. We would line up and take fluoride.
Yeah, they'd give it to us in little
cups. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, fluoride actually doesn't exist in nature.
Right.
A fluorine does as a bauxite that's in aluminium, which is smelted, and now you end up with fluoride, which is a toxin. But what do you do with it? But if you could make money from it, because first, if you know that it makes people docile, which studies show certainly it does, it can cause rats not to be too concerned that something was diametrically opposed to life, really, and so these rats are just going along with this, basically. Yep. But you've got extrapolation of things, which you can see certain compounds and things that's like this could have been used to actually quell people so that they would dampen a lot your actual neurotransmitters and things like this. But if to them or someone, the word kill box is sort of like something which is placed over an area which is that anybody enters into that zone. It's sort of a military term, but is it not that these are the people who really are making the phone and the people who actually behind what all that is? And so, for instance, for your phone, how far away from you are you from your phone today? You see, so these are questions because
very close at all times.
Yes, because it's always it's always collecting information from the tower, and these are cracking around you, and it's always perpetually non-stop cracking around you. So whether it's on or off, it actually is connecting with the tower, and it's actually like, even if it was off, there is soft capture, you see, because there's a chip in this which, is run off the ambient field, and that causes plenty enough Bluetooth to be able to take any information down from that by soft capture, in fact, you see. So
that's what I'm hoping for.
But if you're
it's a soft capture.
But if you're interested, here you've got the issue, of course, of track, tag and ID and things and such like that, in a world where you wouldn't be cared too much for that, or it's okay, whatever, because there's no reason. But like if you were the Uyghurs and this was the first time something was used, like in China,
want to be in that world.
Right? It was
trauma.
facial recognition, and it would even notice your movements like you're making, and they would know, wait a minute, you don't have the right movements even, you see?
Yeah.
Because you could be into, doing something in the park and, making a meditation or something, and that could be forbidden, and so it can check out your movements and things and identify what you are, basically. But today, the fusion centres, which are huge, and you can see these buildings going in everywhere, you wonder, where did all this money come from, to build all these fusion centres?
The Crown.
Which, basically, like if a kill box exists that's put over Americans, for instance, by an enemy corporation, and that enemy corporation really doesn't care too much for what's going on here, because, the system is irresponsible and it's using all of its credit. We the people's credit. Someone else is saying that we're your creditor, and they are then over the top of our credit and spending it all on military and stuff that's like this, and that's got no internal regulation whatsoever. It's kind of like a kill box that's put over everything a bit, where that machinery is being used. Well, I'm only just saying that if you've got a monopoly and you've got something outside ourselves too much, like what is operating off terrain and things like this, you see, doesn't it actually make sense to you that it's asymmetric warfare is being used with the phones? That's one question. You see, that's a question. Because is it made for us, which you'd say no, because I've asked most Americans, they say no, it's not. And so who's it made for? And most everybody's told me in America it's made for a military application. So
the truth comes out.
People could be track tagged and ID'd, and then Project Zypher was done, which was like little things like, is the earth flat? And if you're gullible, they'll see, well, you're very gullible, so you're given a code and a degree of safety, as far as the corpse is concerned. But for them to know quite well and truly that people very gullible lets them just go along with something like what's more COVID, which you can't sort of, even see.
I just thought of a great idea.
But we could get to dithering space at some point.
Ooh, dithering.
Well, and ephemeral content.
Ooh. Anyways, how about this, right? We got a smartphone. It does everything we want, almost. But how about the next level? Because we have our Bluetooth earplugs. Our phone doesn't have to be with us. Or it doesn't have to be on our hand to communicate with it. Now we design a smartphone that you can put in what? Mini drone mode. Hello. Now your smartphone is floating around you, taking video, gathering all kinds of stuff about your environment. And then when you want it back in your hand, it'll just drop down, go back to phone mode. Hello. Thank you very much. That's genius.
That's crazy.
Nothing. Go on.
I think there's conditions which you go on. That, for instance, if you put graphene oxide outside the phone and it's just sprinkled a bit and things, you'll notice that when the phone comes on and things and stuff, you can see that it's modulating and moving the material, and it can cause it to form into a bacteria and things like this, you see, which I can understand absolutely how that's created, the technology of it. But if something in a moment in time could emit a signal, and that signal could of itself creates sonoluminescence. Sonoluminescence is when a molecule in resonance can be exploded. And so you can have a plasma, which DARPA has created, and that plasma can have materials in it, and as it's put onto various things, like it can be made to be put onto tinfoil or something like this, and it'll shred it when it's just with a signal that's from the phone and things, you see.
They got that stuff out?
Where it is, for instance, like, graphene oxide, is sort of really starting to get into people's blood. And where is this coming from? They're using graphene, of course, where all filtration is at this moment. And so how could you not end up with some of that material? Because it was that asbestos was the very particle that most people had before they changed over to graphene. But graphene is ever more toxic. It's way more sharp under the microscope, and it cuts, and it's extremely, dangerous when you look into this. You see, so a kill box could be placed, and it's sort of like multi-dimensional, in fact, where something is, even all the way down to you're only a corporate citizen, and you've been turned into that because a system has existed that only sees you where that is under a contract, which, if it were asked, it could never be shown, but somebody's going to say that something did exist and go along with what that is in a system where a code is only put where no law is anymore. And the code, no one will say, for instance, that under Vice Admiralty, the prosecutor has, it's legal for them to mislead you. Because you're considered as a combatant. I mean, there's a licentiousness, what I'm saying is, and that people who make the phones are licensed to do that. But then isn't that the reason why certain leaders have thought, gee, I'm not sure whether we should just let that be, that technology. Why? Well, because satellite and various sort of technology and things could be used way more to collect more information from us. But the thing I want to just only say is that, did you know that first, a lot of things going on behind the scene, but you've got customers that are pulling from your account at the Federal Reserve Bank, and the Federal Reserve Bank is bankrolling all of these, bankrolling everything. And who owns the Federal Reserve Bank?
Not me.
Well, we do, because it's our credit. You see, all of us, because these people don't have anything. It's our credit, all of it, that's being created every day, and it's huge because you're the real estate. But
a few families,
if the cost to the whole earth, of course, is so great that you've got things which is too much service orientated, it's coming down from a service provider. It's not really customer based at all, you see. So phones can be clean energy, you see, which actually energize you, and it could be designed to actually truly be helpful in every way. But if something is only helpful in some way, but ultimately we just have it because cash won't be, because people feel viruses, is on cash or something, which it doesn't exist. And so now something is dirty and something is clean, and suddenly, there's three-dimensional imaging on the ground anywhere, in the room and everywhere, and in the fusion center it could be just made and anybody can see exactly where someone is, because the pictures could be all put exact, and they can just select these things, which is what happens. It's called phishing.
Oh, it's getting easier and easier every day as well. Also, we're seeing a birth. We've had the phones now for plenty of years, where it's been very common to everybody. But guess what? We're seeing another birth. We are seeing phones coming out with AI already on the phone. It's only going to get better, smarter.
Okay, so let's just ask
it's going to have our back.
Savvy what she thinks, because for instance, like, one thing is people could notice when these phones come out, they honest to God are suffering somewhat from oxygenation, and does it not, which the signal does, have like at a 60 hertz, it's sort of really only for a short distance relative that this is penetrating, but because it's got to go through the atmosphere and the gases and everything. But what it does, that hertz cycle, it's a frequency, and that frequency disturbs oxygen's bonding, you see, with hydrogen. So oxygen's bonding with hydrogen is really disturbed when you use certain frequencies, right? And so first of all, well, one thing is something you could say, how close is the phone to you? Because where it's on or off, it's cracking, and that cracking has got to carry a piggyback frequency wave on it, and those waves are far more dangerous to anybody. An actual fact it is that reasons was that what would be a reason why all the codes was dropped in 220? Everything, because no safety standard anymore where any board was. Why? Because the United Nations comes along and they have 5 boards that fit over the top of every single nation, and they set the standard as to what you could consider to be an emergency when none exists, you see. So you've got a lot of scamdemics and a lot of more new scary ants and things. But if things are going on like that wherever else you see, why wouldn't be thinking that actually the phone is part of all of that? Like, for instance, Project Bluebeam. They use the phones and the frequency of the phone to, in fact, cause apparition and things for you to be able to see, because it's an interaction with satellite and your phone.
So our ghost is projecting ghosts in our mind.
Well, you need sort of like a projected capacity to do things and like that. And so the idea is to be able to use the phones where they are and to interact that with the satellite and be able to create 3-dimensional imaging in the sky and things like that around us. And so nobody's going to say that that's something which hasn't been thought of in this sort of thing, nor would somebody say that the sonoluminescence isn't something which explodes this gel and can just cause blood clot and be responsible for somebody being assassinated just on the spot. I mean, could we say that first that people are not considered belligerents or combat ants? And if you're just only listing yourself inside a corporation, the people who are the Republic, they look upon this as somebody who is a combat ant. You see, so for a lot of reasons, if somebody is only just a corporate citizen, and it looks like, where do you get any consideration, I mean, in the court or anything in procedure? Because if prison bonds and court bonds is what got funding the International Monetary Fund, you see, isn't everything sort of connected? And I was just wondering about the smartphone, you see, because dithering space exists.
Dithering? What is dithering?
Well, you notice that you've only got like about 14 colours or something or less, and you've got thousands of colours you could select from, but you're only given a certain colour frame. That's it.
That's right.
But when you go onto the black web, you can see the dark web, you can see all the colours that you would like, and it's a whole range of things which you can know you're on a different web.
What a great example.
So in the time when they did this, they decided to take away what was analogical and make it digital, and in the process of that first, they turned everything into a square wave where it wasn't before. It was more pyramidical and actually had more resonance and things like that, whereas when you turn something into digital, you lose quality because you've actually got a square signal. And so if you've only got a phone which is set up for military purposes like we've all been talking about here, and that's not been designed for you and I, is it just that you're a human mineral given something and it costs you, and it costs you every month, but in fact it's designed to make sure that you only live to be 60, or like everybody saw, it's going to drop the sperm count and knock out sperm count so it doesn't actually function. And 5G could easily do that, you see, see, and it was all the papers and research that actually showed that, and it was done because depopulation would be working, and because vaccines was always put to be a way that people could no longer reproduce. And how good would that be? Because lots of people felt they didn't want to reproduce, but that's untrue, you see. This is all a lot of groupthink put out by people who would care just to be able to depopulate. But if who's in charge is only going to put things that's COVID relative, or not care that something was not rigged but was, and now something turns out to be favourable perhaps, and so something is not rigged. I mean, a bit flip-flopping and around like that. Most of us are really a bit more consistent in the way we think about things, but should you limit the amount of time and exposure that you have to the phone? That's one thing. Second, you couldn't, a mesh be put around the phone which reduces the activity. But if you turn the Bluetooth off and the Wi-Fi, which you don't need, now you're not going to get a lot more of the harm and stuff and things that's like this. But is the phone all of a sudden be tethered to graphene oxide, which transmits your DNA, and it actually can totally conduct, and now you're suddenly showing up when you're 30 feet away from any computer system. Your blood is showing up, and it's Bluetooth to the phone or computer, which I have, and I can see straight away that you've been vaccinated, because
that's good.
If you didn't get vaccinated, you got graphene oxide. And where's all this graphene oxide coming in? I just told you that it's being made filters and filtration and things. And so that's exactly the way that actually asbestos got in a lot. In the past, they've turned asbestos off, but now they've got graphene oxide, you see? And it's highly, highly conductive. So I think it's pertinent when we're talking about this, because your smartphone, especially the 5G now and things that go on, they're designed to actually really penetrate and go really deeper into your body, MT, you see?
Yes, I do.
So, of course, there's ephemeral content, which is content that's just given to you. It's very specific to you. And within that, you could be given a service. So, for instance, a carrier piggyback frequency wave could be emitted from the phone, and it modifies how people will hear you see. And it can cause, things which is not proper per se, in the way that somebody can hear things, because a carrier piggyback frequency wave could be placed over the top of things that is done, and modifying things in the way someone receives this, you see.
Sneaky.
But it's interesting because, when all this occurred, you could see that the amount of signal that would be given for the use of the device was only around about 4%, and 96% of it was something which was called dithering space. And that is all the signal that everything that's not used for processing, or for its internal processing and processing outside, and just for the signal and things for your usage of it and service of the few things that would be. But there was a massive amount of data that's still left, and that's called dithering space, you see? Yes?
Wow. And what are they going to do with that?
Well,
massive amount of data.
A long time ago, of course, it was for people to get into a habit of eating popcorn. And it was automatic for many people, because it was great for people to go to these big cinemas and things. But below that, there was all this subliminal conditioning, which was studied, and it showed that captains of consciousness could truly sway or change people's view. And it's certain that, like in a logarithm and these sort of things. But coming back to smartphone, like one thing, we've just been talking about the way that's been used, but challenge is where all things are, because if you've got conditions or where phones are made and who made that, and then of course if somebody is supposed to be part of Interpol and they are supposed to be sort of really impartial, but if they get back to China, for instance, they really could get sacked from that position, or sacked from any position, in fact. So is it that somebody is sort of being controlled more and someone else isn't, and this sort of a thing?
Yes.
But the idea of a United Nations has been, or anything, in fact, anybody, you couldn't point out that something wasn't tainted in some way, because downstream of negative economic inductance, you've got not customer-based but service-based and big six or something. You see, that sold all our information. Now, we never gave permission for our information to be sold. That's first thing. Second, that's private.
Not fairly.
No, but then also to the ledgers merged with a enemy corpse. You and I, no one ever gave permission for any of that to be. You see, and so these are things what has gone on where things are relative, and so of course there's some concern a bit about it all, because it's a sort of like an asymmetric type of a warfare relative, because you could see pennies on the dollar that somebody was just affected by the phone in the way that they were targeted as combat ants.
I was definitely targeted.
And so treason really is where an act is going on which takes away your title and right, and some held position over we the people, which shouldn't be. But if some customer profiledness was just for you to be a franchise, or you to have be part of a private holding, and then use just really vague words like the state of the state of the state of the state to be who's behind the birth certificate, or use a soaring horse technique, for instance, like they used, like Bobby Rush did to get 666 through. The soaring horse technique was outlawed. You can't change the gate of the way that something is processed, of course, because everything has to be vetted. But in the 25th of December in 1913, of course, you got the Federal Reserve Bank formed, and that was not passed with any, because it didn't have a quorum. And the same on but for other reasons,
so
on
Federal Reserve was
the
formed
March the 9th in 1933. You see, so these are things that committed fraud, but these were things before you were born. But now you're a man, not a Peter Pan relative. But is it where you and I or anybody doesn't care to be controlled by people who are fraternized type of a group? But if you're witnessing a crime and you're not reporting it, it really becomes you're just like an accessory to the crime, because you're going along where something is. But could we just all of a sudden go to pleasures about something when in fact something is about what it is, which needs to be corrected? What attention do we have, to all what is, and why would you want to pick on any one thing of itself? The only thing is that if ultraviolet light is used, and that's got a patent on it for affecting people's hearts, or you've got LED lights which are flickering and doing things which at so fast a rate that it's not necessarily perceptible to you, but in wordedness can be given to you in light, but also to light it shows, in fact, that can cause people to have seizure and things that's like this. You've got devices today which could be used in crowd control and to impact people who they'd be cared to have some crowd control. And so you don't think that actually some buzzingness or something could uncomfortable be, but if something exploded even by the battery and what have you. But you see, I'd just say that because service provider is far away and things are more like under a monopoly, a lot of things, could you say, are not necessarily designed as well as what they could be, for sure. Yes?
Sure, absolutely. You don't want to design the perfect product right away. You want to take your time to get there, because all that time is money.
Okay, so well, first of all, if we own the technology and we can pay whoever made that, how good is that? But we own the technology. Why? Well, because that's you or I. That's our usage of all beingness, and that is something which you're given. And so something must be equivalent to the time you spent. You see, you're getting something for the money that you've spent, but it's your credit that will have paid for that, you see, which it is. And so why should you not be the own whore of it, you see, which you are? And so ultimately, do you need a piece of paper to say that you're the owner? No. Somebody have to say a claim is that you're not. And it's like, well, no, you've got a reversionary interest in all this. You're the creditor as you sit as a visitor, you know, in a ministerial visitation where everybody is able to select. Then they give this to the foreman, and the foreman can be the processor of the what account that exists. The bailiff has to be turned to hear what has been given as an order from we the people, and now that person turns to carry out this order, and they have to go where this is to the bureau that sits above the Legislative Assembly, you see, because it's sort of laws and things which would need to be made to help protect people, to help protect property, for instance, from people losing equity just because of some pocket judgment or something. I mean, but coming back to the phone, in the future, could it not be that if you have clean energy, of course, which we do and can have, it's running off the B field, and so you don't have to have all these batteries anymore, you see, because it's made to run off the B field itself, and so things can be done that actually enhances your energy. Have you heard, like, things are made and it sort of like causes you to have more of an enhanced energy?
Very nice.
Yes, like all the temples and things and dolmens that they made would cause you to go in front of them and things and be there, and it were designed to actually have a lot more clarity and things, yes, in their design. And so, of course, things could be designed more where things are more useful,
okay.
But when we would overskip that maybe, like for instance, linesmen, what's the reason why they do suffer far more from leukemia and things like this than anyone else?
Because,
and they do suffer from a lot of magnetic,
they're constantly around those
radiation
power lines.
Right.
Of course, they're going to, that's no good. That's no good.
So if a 60 hertz cycle or 120 or like 240 or something like this is selected, do you have a feeling that one of those might be a bit more toxic than the other?
Sure.
In actual fact, that's true.
What
but
about
you
our
see,
phones? Are they toxic?
But if you needed to change something over because someone else found out stuff and they made theirs sort of grade to be this way, but it would be that people would need to change over, and that would be huge. And so could be just belligerence, as somebody says no, they just don't want to do that when they could have been given the opportunity, especially when the world was looking into resonance and it was just deciding, oh, gee, what sort of resonance do you want to have come off the line that's connected to the power station, you see? And the dirty energy that's coming off that at the moment, there's a reticular magnetic energy that comes off these devices and things and such like this. And definitely there's no question about it. But those are things which are absorbed more and radiation is absorbed more. And over time, cells become crystallized, and the energy that's within them no longer is like a bright, good, beautiful light relative, but all filled in more, and it is because melanin is pulled in light and it's not letting it out. And then even a water that's come from you could be looked at as a crystallized, and it'll show this shape, and it's really an exact shape, and it really is to do with how much exposure you're having to dirty energy, and the duration, like we're talking about, and the intensity of it. So how close you are, the proximity to things that's like this, and its duration of time is to do with the intensity and the multipliedness of how much time was spent where something is. Tissue, it's certain that exposed doesn't have to have a felt seeming radiation temperature rise.
So our phones are killing us.
But it could have a temperature drop. Why? Well, because it can coagulate, you see, and it suddenly kind of, people are losing far infrared, and they're moving into an ultraviolet range, and that's everyone you can see that's aging. Everything they're doing is actually robbing far infrared energy from their body. And so dirty energy is just a factor, something that's like this, but it's so innocuous at the moment because we don't see it, seemingly. But because we couldn't see something, the colour blue and the white colour comes off a screen. If you have blue blockers, it's going to help your eyes. But today, cataract and a lot of things have affected, and radiation, absolute, there's no question about it, impacts people's eyes,
so
you see.
the blue blockers help your eyes, right?
Yeah, you use glasses a little bit to be able to magnify things you're seeing.
What do puberty?
You should use blue blockers.
Well, what does puberty blockers do to your eyes?
Well, we're mixing things up a lot, but jumping around. Let's see. Puberty blockers can truly not necessarily function for your eyes or anything because something is all sort of synthetic and drug. Mm-hmm. And so now what you've done is to impact hormone and things that's like that, and machinery and things. And so what have you got after this? And what would be a reason for that, you see? Mm-hmm. Yes? Yeah. But when you're getting into things like that, you're sort of talking about ephemeral content. And so, for instance, like all the things that's coming from the phone, would you say first the phone has caused people to be more antisocial? Because now, like when you didn't have a phone, you went to a party, you couldn't be just sitting there, but now somebody can sit there and they just are twiddling sort of thing. And it's, makes somebody be comfortable because it's like they're doing something or busy versus they're just sitting not doing anything sort of thing.
That's right.
But it's made people more antisocial because it's not interactive with you and it's not social interactive. And so could you say that these are things which could be used more as a war tactic relative? So suddenly
like
public
right before you launch
phones, well, public phones don't exist anymore, so you suddenly might not know that, and all of a sudden you go to make a phone call and you don't have your own cell phone, and suddenly there is no public phone. Something gets switched off, which you needed to use to pay for things, and these are things which could be controlled far away, and suddenly just something controlled far away could be switched off. That's like remote control in vehicles, remote control in aeroplane, and things like this.
Yes.
You see? So is there not examples of things that's like that, in fact?
One journalist that was killed, they used the remote control in his car, lit it on fire.
Well, Fast and Furious, and the bloke who was behind this a little bit was looking into vaccine and how that sterilised people in the Philippines and things such. And it was stories that related more to investigation of things that was really companies and things that was involved in
story. Next thing you know, his car's on fire.
Fast and Furious was involved more with drugs to the cartel and the changeover of Italians maybe to Zionist more, or China control more where that is itself. And so thousands of guns was given, but 52,000 people was murdered in a short moment of time. This was sort of like what Fast and Furious was about. Yes. So here's somebody I think that was involved where these stories are a bit like as a movie actor, but also being involved more, where other
pretty
things
high
are.
up because they had to use some pretty advanced stuff to make that happen. Now, I believe we're at the dawn with the new phones that are coming out with the AI. That's a whole new ball game. I mean, talk about an amazing future that's going to bring in. I can't wait to see what happens and what people are going to turn it into. But wow, we're talking next level society stuff here. It's going to be fun.
Well, if you're only asked now rather than looking up something, you're given the answer.
Yeah. I don't have to look at anything. I just say, "Hey, phone,
well, it would be in a world which was transparent. But what about a world which is me see 'em, you don't?
Well, and guess what? Now this phone is. Not only can you ask it a question, but you can ask how to do it. I mean,
but if all of a sudden you're trusting
you don't have to do any of the work.
AI, did you know that the challenges with that is that because if a processing sequence existed, you can perfectly interrupt that sequence to stop something. But
I interrupt all the time with my
AI is existing, it could be set up so something was processing and it absolutely didn't have anything to actually see that something wasn't in the proper order of things because it's dumb. But you and I are not, you see. But the question that if somebody just marshals and sequesters what the information is because it wants a Google mind, and it's done to cause a false opposition relative to make you feel like some opposition but it kind of really wasn't.
When you're messing with technology you don't really understand, you need to be aware and at least look for red flags and know that you're being manipulated more than ever.
If men, for instance, because they know that men are rubberneck to gore and blood and violence, and they know that they have a sensitivity for that bias.
We love to kill,
and so. They purposefully will play to you the very things but it could be more to do more with like things that relate to your life not being really worthwhile or anyone else's, and ever learn more helplessness as well. I mean, studies show, in fact, that actually the ephemeral content and things that people have been given isn't necessarily proper for anyone's benefit at all, but it could be based upon actually just selecting your weaknesses more, you see.
Yeah.
But if we put that aside, that's just something because you're getting content, that's what that means, and it's specific to you, not anyone else. And so if you didn't know that, you're just in a world and you're thinking everybody's got something, but they didn't, it was you. You see, this could be switched on or switched off where things are, and now you've got something that's coming out of an idiot box, and that idiot box is letting you know what the news is, and it's decided itself because the YouTube or whatever somebody calls anything that comes along is like a ticker-tocking or something.
Are you talking about the television?
It's all to be applied more to control.
Television is the idiot box?
Well, I'd say that when you've got bots that can act as real people, how do you know who you're connecting with? And how do you know that a bot's not giving you like ephemeral content for you? You see?
And every time you talk to somebody or even listen to somebody on the internet, you don't even know if that's a real person.
There's no transparency.
We need transparency.
You've taken away that from us because you took away title, and so somebody's only a son of a purr or a daughter of a purr, which doesn't exist, or a tiff of a plaint, or a deaf-ended ant, or a combat ant as some insect, just because like you're considered a cockroach per se. Nobody's going to say that these are things which hasn't gone on where history is. We have trouble from the heavens, certain, because things that come in make massive calamity. But if we manage ourselves internal, you could see that people just being mineralized and used for energy themselves, and where some capitalism is like this, it's sort of got to create a predatorial environment, and isms basically are evil. Doesn't matter what it is, because an ism is masquerading as an entity which is got a central organized nervous system, which it really doesn't have at all, you see. So when you put a corpse above the living, what have you done?
And when you say corpse, you're talking about corporations.
Yeah, because a corpse is, well, everything fictional is dead. A cup is dead. It's not going to be aware, right?
Maybe in the future it'll have an AI cup.
Yes, but it's still not aware. Like I'm saying, it can be made more super conscious, but still, it's not in a living awareness per se.
I'm super conscious and I'm totally unaware.
I think it's pretty arrogant that someone could just say that, someone in a white lab coat, which we see, right? Yep. They come along and they say they've improved upon babies. What do you think about that? They got the holding up the syringe.
Oh,
they got the white lab coat on.
And
they've come out
and they've
said no. They're holding up the baby and they said they've improved upon babies. babies.
Okay.
What about a chef that comes outside the kitchen and lets everybody know they've improved upon the apple?
You know, you're giving me an idea. I think I'm going to start walking around in a lab coat.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be able to get more done with less effort.
You want to give a lot more nitrous oxide to everybody, which opens up all your blood vessels, and people are more relaxed, and let's see, they're building more carbon dioxide, which is a way more important gas than even oxygen, just about,
Well,
you see,
here's
for us.
another thing. You know, how about
And
this?
we're in short supply at the moment
It
in the
all
atmosphere.
depends on the owner. Is a smartphone a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's both. But if you want to make it a good thing, ask it good questions.
Well, when you do, but it's only going to actually give you an answer itself.
A Google
and
answer.
it's not what you would research yourself to get. You can suddenly see this is truly disastrous, matter of fact.
you
Like,
could.
for instance,
Not me.
Wikipedia.
Oh my gosh. I love Wikipedia, but I know that it's not.
It's disgustingly crazy because it is absolutely nothing verified whatsoever, zero. And who could be the primary source of something?
Russia.
No, wait a minute. Anyone cannot be a primary source. There's rules in the way that somebody's made it that they will put something on there. And if that's just Googleized and everything like anything else, please don't tell me that that's not just
Is there a website
weird.
out
It's
there that
really
has the
weird, matter of
facts?
fact.
Is there a website out there called thefacts.com? Because, you know, we
no.
need the facts.
Well, yes.
We need to
but,
have them.
Enough
already.
but you could teach people to have a master class where they could be learning to think better for themselves. Wouldn't that be better?
Wouldn't that? That's one of our episodes, isn't it? Strategy.
Shouldn't you be like what you said to me? I want to replace myself because I've really got a lot of excellence.
That's right.
And younger people and others and everybody, they really should know more about this. You see, being MT has caused Bliss to be, and having just a slow down sort of thing is more sure-footed, which is really pretty terrific. It's really a great medicine name.
We have more people than ever trying to replace themselves. It's called transition.
Well, if you're modelling excellence, do you have a feeling that actually there's a bit of shortage of actually people that are positive examples of an outward-lived, excellence?
Sure.
Yeah, modelling is the way we learn the fastest. What's two other ways we learn?
Reading and writing.
Yeah, so contemplating. And what's another way?
Word of mouth.
Okay, so through experience, we have experience in the world, contextual sorts of things that go on, experience. Yeah.
Through socializing.
Imitation is the very primary way we learn really fast. And then you've got contemplation, and then you've got experiential. Experiential stuff could be just like tough love and all sorts of things there, but it really tempers things, doesn't it? And so if you know what the last set is, they say the alpha and the omega is what really all things should really be, and it's who knows the last set of things can actually understand the whole. But where somebody didn't do that, they wouldn't be doing too good. But like, wouldn't you go into the year 4026 and you went to visit with a few people and they were all professors and interested? They were
probably
young people, and the conversation was what happened in the year 2025 and 2026.
You know what they're going to say? They're going to say, I listened to Jump Talk and it changed my life.
Well, they sure would know lots of things because many things would be documented for sure, you see, but people would be looked back to see who, let go, because why? Well, because it was just too much of an old idea that centralization could actually exist. Wrong, because decentralization is what exists, and smart contract is more like what things should be. And you and I, we should be verifying our vote. That's it on .arm, and have a server which is owned by all of us rather than some big tech agent that's private. But let's purchase the things from them where this is, and let's own that ourselves where things are. But wouldn't you say that, like Pol Pot in 1979, from 1975 to 1979, there were 3 million maybe sort of people that would say was homicided, they were genocided.
That's crazy.
What happened to Pol Pot afterward?
Wasn't that long ago, folks, either.
Yeah, but what happened to Pol Pot afterward, I'm asking?
I don't know what happened. Did they kill his ass?
It was looked after, mate. just like he was before, paid off. An agent, you see. Yes.
How did Pol Pot die?
Well, we would wonder who is not an agent, honest. Everybody knows that Agent Selesky is an agent, you see. So there's two. Wouldn't you say that in history most of these people have been agents? Of course. Because why? Because a monopoly has existed. And so you do not and cannot have a conspiracy. That's ridiculous. But if you go along with something which is to conspire, and it's only a theory, and when you have the word conspire, you only have theory put to it, and so that's just a deviant way to say that you only have something which is not of some covert fact which you do, you see. So if I just say that all is a heading, but you have a claim, but you've got to put it under a commie plaint, but the commie plaint is coming from a fiction, you as a fiction, not as, but you're only addressing a fiction, so it can only be accepted because you're only addressing a fiction, but if you're not, you're addressing someone private. Well, now you're going somewhere, aren't you? You see what I mean? But if you don't know the appellation of all these sorts of things and that, well, that's not right, because you didn't need to know how to National Alliance for Zionism, which is Nazism. Why should you lick stamps for all sorts of things that, it's just not so right?
Right.
Wouldn't it be better that we live in a world that's transparent?
Oh, that's what we need. And
Would it be a world that we have phones that actually we could talk about in a second about
I have an idea.
you?
Transparency, clear or see-through denim, right? Transparent denim, and now your jeans would be transparent.
Well, jeans
Or
could be worn so you could be
transparent.
invisible in a short moment, because you've got clothing which you can wear that cause you to be more invisible. Quite amazing, in fact, because it bends the light from around you.
They're called dad jeans.
And the phones of the future, where clean energy exists, they project into the space, and they're only a very small device, and that is all that you have, matter of fact, and everything is stored more in the ether, and it's just a very small device. It doesn't run off the A field, it runs off the B field, runs off the ambient field that's existing.
and those exist?
Yeah, well, our mitochondria run off this, and your cards do, in a chip that's designed to cause it to be read.
This future phone you're describing, does it exist?
Yeah, these things exist, of course. Soft capture exists right now, so you don't have to have your stuff on or off for that to be read what's there, you see, because it's Bluetoothable, and it's easy because it's turned on or off. No, it has power enough ambient-wise to run circuitry to transmit that. And so the gadgets of the future and things that's like this, it's sort of like gone everywhere. But it's like, what about, these gadgets of the future more, but you can see three-dimensional imaging. It's projected into the air above the device, and you can put your fingers in and hands in, and you're moving things around.
That's totally important.
And you've got three-dimensional imaging more versus just a flat screen, you see, that we have today. So these are things which change with free energy and stuff. Same with walls. Walls can be touched, and you can have a different scene there in your wall projected, you see, and that's done quite so easy. But at the moment, technology's been used like Aladdin computing that bets into the future, so people wake and something has been owned into the future, and so everybody would agree that's not a proper world to be latched so like that.
No,
you know
but
what I
that's
mean?
a proper T-shirt, into the future.
Yeah, so we're moving into this age of Aquarius, and it's sort of really a really massive tipping point which has gone on.
It's going to be great.
Which has happened to cause people, like you can't control people all the time, and so you have to relax off whilst you've got control, and that is like control off, control on, control off, control on. Doesn't mean that a monopoly is existing that's managing it for things for its own sake, you see.
And
but we, the people,
really
need to get more into administrative councils.
We really need to get into the future of the phone. But you know what's great about everything today that we've talked about? You can find it on your phone, Spotify. Don't forget, please remember to subscribe. And that's all we got for today. I would like for you, Dr. Jubb, could you please leave us with something simple and positive to make our day amazing?
I love you.
Okay. Thank you. I love you too.
Yeah, because if you say it in another way, it all is going to modify it more. And more words actually modify it. I love you is sort of equal. I and you and love is in between there. And so it's any way more words we use, it sort of really modifies that. So we live what we speak and we speak what we live next.
All right. Take us out.
You got prosecuted